Hello everyone and welcome back to Cybersecurity for All YouTube channel. In today's video, we will discuss about the 12 requirements of PCI-DSS and the sensitive authentication of the card data. So let's start. So a quick recap about the PCI-DSS requirement. So PCI-DSS has 6 control objectives, which includes number 1, build and maintain a secure network and system. Then there is a protect cardholder data. Then maintain a vulnerability management program, then implement strong access control, logging and monitoring, and then information security policy. So these 12 requirements are basically the extension of these 6 control main objectives. So in simplified form, what PCI DSS focuses on, it focuses on maintaining the state-of-the-art firewalls, no default password and policies, then protection of the data, cardholder data at rest, encryption of card data at rest, encryption of card data in transition, use of antivirus, the latest antivirus, then there is a secure app development and secure DevOps process, then there is a restricted and control access control mechanism, then it focuses on the physical protection of the servers, and also there is a logging, monitoring, testing of systems, and at the end it focuses on the administrative controls of having the policies and procedures for everything that comes under the scope of PCI DSS within an organization. So first of all, let's start with the sensitive cardholder data. So basically there are two types of cardholder data. The first one is CHD, which is cardholder data, and the second one is sensitive authentication data. So the cardholder data includes PAN number, which I have explained in the previous video. The 16-digit number that is mentioned on your card is actually the PAN number. Then there is a cardholder name, then expiration date, and the service code. So what PCI DSS permit about the storage of these data? Yes, PCI DSS permit the organization about storing of PAN number, the cardholder name, the expiration date, and the service code. But PCI DSS allow the storage of this data with some limitations. For example, you cannot store the whole PAN number, but you can store the PAN number with some masking, which I will explain later on these slides. Then without any condition, you can store the cardholder name, the expiration date of the card, and the service code. Then comes the sensitive authentication data. The sensitive authentication data includes the data that is stored in the magnetic strip on the chip of the card. So, and then there is a CVV, the pin that is mentioned on the back of the card, and the pin of the card which you use on the ATM machine. So PCI DSS never ever allow any organization to store this data, which comes under the sensitive authentication data. What is this data? This data includes the data stored on the magnetic strips, the chip, and the CVV number, and the pin number of the card. This pin number is actually used at the ATM card or at the POS machines as well. Then moving forward, so let's discuss about all the requirements of the PCI DSS. So the first requirement about PCI DSS is related to the network security. So what it says that it first focuses on the installation and maintaining the edge firewall, which can protect the cardholder data from the outside traffic. Then there must be a firewall policies and standard procedures for this, and then there must be a restriction between the CDE and the corporate network. CDE here is a card data environment. So within an organization, a corporate network and a card data environment basically includes all the machines and the servers, which includes the card data. So the card data environment and the corporate network in an organization's network must be separated with proper VLANs. There must be a separate VLAN for the card data environment and a separate VLAN for the corporate networks. And then there must be a controlled inbound traffic. The traffic which flows within the organization must be controlled and monitored. Then there must be a personal firewalls, for example the firewalls within the network that monitors and logs all the traffic that flows within the organization. For example, someone wants to access the cardholder data, so this traffic must be logged and monitored as per the requirements of the PCI DSS. And at the end, it focuses on the administrative controls of having a network security policy. So these are the requirements that comes under the requirement run of network security policy. Then moving forward, The requirement two focuses on the vendor supplied systems and password. So normally there is a practice whenever vendor deploy any equipment or system, there will be a default passwords of admin and say set 123. So PCI DSS enforces on the changing of these passwords immediately after the deployment. There will be no vendor default password on vendor default system settings, and also it focuses on the system hardening, which includes the restriction of unnecessary ports and services. Also, the administrative access to any of these machines must be encrypted and must be controlled by a multi-factor authentication as well. Then PCI-DSS focuses on having the inventories of all the systems, machines, and applications that basically store and process the cardholder data. And at the end, there must be a policies about the acceptable usage and the password policies, which enforces the administrative controls for the protection of the cardholder data. So this will be the requirement number two that focuses on the vendor default system and enforces to change any default settings if it is in use in your system or the network. Then moving forward towards the requirement number three. Requirement number three basically focuses on the encryption of the cardholder data that is stored at rest. For example, in a database, if there is any card data stored, which type of card data can be stored? The card data which is stored at rest is basically the PAN number, the cardholder name, or expiry date as well. So this data should be encrypted at rest, and the sensitive authentication data, which is CVV and card pin, should not be stored at any reason, and the encryption must be done properly. There will be no weak encryption algorithms, so strong encryption algorithms must be used, and at the end there is an administrative control about a proper encryption policy and the organization must have. So requirement 3 is basically enforces on the encryption of data at rest. Then moving forward towards the requirement number 4. So requirement number 4 is basically focuses on the transmission of data. So whenever card data is transmitted within the organization or outside the organization, it must be transmitted over the encrypted channels like IPsec tunnels or TLS version 1.2 and above. So the card data, whenever it is in transmission, it should not be transmitted on the unsecured channels like HTTP. It should not be transmitted over in a plain text. It must be transmitted in encrypted format or via encrypted protocols like as I explained, IPsec tunnels or the TLS version 1.2 and above. Then there must be a policy for the transmission or bulk transmission of the cardholder data for the administrative controls. So PCI DSS at every requirement focuses on the administrative controls as well. So just a recap, there are multiple type of controls. The first one is the administrative control. Administrative control basically enforcing on having a policy or procedure to be enforced. Then there are some logical or technical controls. Or technical controls, which includes the implementation of the policies or logging and monitoring policies as the firewall and the antivirus policies or use cases. Then there are the physical security controls, which includes the locks or physical access controls as well. So the PCI DSS focuses on the all the controls on implementation of all the controls for the protection and security of the cardholder data. Then coming towards the requirement number 5. So requirement number 5 is specifically about the antivirus or the XDRs. So what PCI DSS says, PCI DSS enforces that the antivirus must be installed on all the servers and the endpoints which are dealing with the cardholder data. These antivirus must be updated. They should not be open source. They must be a licensed software, and the license of these antivirus or EDRs must be updated regularly, and no end user is allowed to disable antivirus at any situation. Then there must be a policies for the antivirus update and the patching as well. So antivirus, having antivirus in the server or at the endpoint is the mandatory one of the mandatory requirement of PCI DSS. Without having antivirus, you are not eligible for the compliance of the PCI DSS. Then requirement number 6. Requirement number 6 basically focuses on the applications or the softwares which processes or transmit the cardholder data. So what it says that these applications must be developed securely, and there will be a whole process of security assessment of these applications. Whenever any application is developed, it must go through a rigorous penetration testing activities, the risk assessment activities, the multiple scanning. So the vulnerabilities that comes around at any phase must be patched regularly. And then it also focuses on having a web application firewall. So the web application firewall basically protect the web application level traffic, and also it secures the applications from the known vulnerabilities of the OWASP top 10, which includes the cross-site scripting, the SQL injections as well. And at the end, the organization must develop an administrative control of having the secure coding and the secure software development guidelines. So the requirement 6 basically focuses on the secure development of the applications that deal with the cardholder data. Then moving forward, requirement 7 and 8 focuses on the access control mechanisms. So requirement 7 says that there must be a limited privilege access and the attribute based access control. The access control which is granted, it must follow the principle of least privilege, like there must be a minimum access granted to the card data environment, and card data environment must be granted after the set of approvals, and by default settings is deny all access to the cardholder data. By default is it should be deny all. Then there must be a list of authorized users who can access to the cardholder data, and these users are authorized after by a set of approvals from the competent authority. And at the end, there must be a policy developed for the granting of roles and the access to the cardholder data. Then come towards the requirement number 8. The requirement number 8 basically explaining about the management of these accounts which have access to the cardholder data, how an organization can secure these accounts. So first of all, these accounts should be listed and documented and logged properly and monitored properly. Then there must be a strong authentication. There must be a strong password policy for all the accounts who are accessing the card data environment. Then multi-factor authentication and the password and the one-time code must be implemented for all the accounts that are using the card data environment. Then there must be a limited shared account. So, and also there must be a physical control factors, and access to the database as mentioned previously must be on deny all. And after deny all, there will be a list of users who can have access to the accounts, and these accounts are granted after the proper set of approvals from the competent authority. And the policies must be developed to manage all the accounts, and if there is any dormant account, it should be deleted immediately. Then moving forward towards the requirement number 9. So requirement number 9 focuses on the physical security of all the machines that are holding or processing or transmitting the cardholder data. So in requirement 9, the PCI-DSS is enforcing on having a strong physical access control mechanism. The access to the data center in which all the servers are there, so the access should be controlled and monitored. There must be a proper logging of all the visitors who go in and out from the data center. Then any outside visitors must be managed and escorted by someone from the internal IT. And then there is a secure disposal of all the data. If there is a disposal of media or disk or tapes which containing the card data, so they must be destroyed via secure manner. They must be destroyed by a gauzer which will make it unusable at any condition, and all the papers which contain the cardholder data, they must be destroyed by a shredder. Then there must be a policy or the administrative control developed by the organization which focuses on the secure disposal of media and any data in the hard form. Basically, it is recommended by the PCI-DSS to acquire a gauzer for the destruction of the hard drives and tapes, and acquire a shredder for the restriction of all the data in the hard form like in papers. Then moving forward towards the requirement number 10. So requirement number 10 basically focuses on the logging and monitoring of all the activity to the card data environment. Either it's on the application layer, either it's on the database layer, or either it's on the OS layer. So all the logs and events should be managed and stored properly, and all the machines which are basically acquiring or for storing or processing or transmitting all the card order data must be synchronized with the network timing protocol, and the NTP server must be properly synchronized, and there must be a proper archival of logs and storage of logs, and there must be a mechanism to review all the logs and respond accordingly. And then after that there must be a logging and monitoring policy and procedures to be enforced. Then come to the requirement 11. Requirement 11 basically focuses on the wireless network security. So it says that any access points, or you can say the Wi-Fi's, which are installed within the organization premises are must be documented, and any outsider should not be allowed to connect to that access points who can make a loophole to access to the internal network of the card data environment. So any wireless access points that is not documented or authorized by the organization should not be allowed to be active within the organization, and these wireless access points basically cause the rogue wireless access points. Then requirement number 11 focuses on the perpetual activity of the internal and external vulnerability scans. All the applications, systems, servers should be scanned quarterly basis by a approved scanning vendor to test if there is any vulnerabilities. And then the organization must have the patch management policy to patch all the systems in time and to secure the card data environment from any vulnerability. Then it focuses on the IDS and IPS. So nowadays, most of the firewalls are the advanced firewalls that are coming. These next generation firewalls have the built-in IDS and IPS capability. If these firewalls doesn't have the IDS, if any organizations which have acquired a firewall which doesn't have the by default IDS and IPS capabilities, so it must have to acquire the IDS and IPS and make all the rules for the protection of data at the network level to comply with the PCI-DSS. Then PCI-DSS also focuses on the file integrity. All the files of the card data that are stored in a server, its integrity must be ensured via file integrity monitoring. If there is any changes to the card data or card data files, there must be an alert, or there in normal practice the hashes of these data are calculated, and if there is any change to these hash, it will generate an alert about the changes in the card data. And at the end, there is an administrative control about the policies and procedures about the wireless network security. Then moving forward towards the final requirement of the PCI DSS. So PCI DSS final requirement is totally on the administrative controls and some technical controls. So it focuses on the security policy. The organization should have developed their information security policy, which will focus on the security of the card data that it will store, transmit, or process whatever it is doing. And then there must be a perpetual risk assessment of all the systems applications within the card data environment. Then the responsibilities of everyone who are dealing with the card data must be defined, and in a normal scenario there is a recommendation of about developing a segregation of duties matrix which will define what is the responsibility of each and everyone, and no one could supersede or exceed that responsibilities mentioned in the approved segregation of duties matrix. Then all the personnel who are dealing with the card data environment, their security awareness trainings must be conducted. Then there must be a personal screening about hiring of people who will work with the card data. Then third party relationship or third party vendors must be managed. There must be NDA between the organization and the third parties if they are dealing with the organization's card data. And then organization must have the incident response plan readily available if in case there is any incident occur to the card data. Then at the end, it focuses on the administrative controls about the policies and procedures. So these were all will be the 12 requirements of the PCI DSS. It focuses on right from the network security to the data encryption at rest to the secure hiring and of the peoples. Then it focuses on the secure development of the applications. That it focus on the wireless access security. Then it is focuses on the access control, not only the logical access control, but it also focuses on the physical access control as well, and it focuses on the encryption of the card data at rest, at transition as well, and at the end it focuses on the administrative controls of having the policies and procedures. So if any organization if comply to all these 12 requirements, then after that it will be a PCI DSS certified. So these are all about the requirements of the PCI DSS. Now let's discuss at the end, discuss some of the PCI DSS myths. So first of all, there is a myth about the PCI DSS that if you do not store card data, PCI DSS doesn't apply. No, it's just a myth. If in case if you are not storing a card data, but you are transmitting or processing a card data, then PCI DSS is applicable on you as well. Then there is a myth that PCI-DSS is only a legal requirement. No, it's not just a legal requirement. Basically, it's a security requirement, and nowadays it is properly enforced by the regulators as well. Then encrypted card holder data doesn't count. Encrypted card holder data does count, and it needs to be secure. Then there is a PCI DSS is a technical issue business don't have to deal with. No, business is the main stakeholder or key stakeholder in the card holder in the PCI DSS implementation. So the next myth is PCI DSS is product centric. If product X or product Y will make you compliant, then PCI DSS, then the organization will be a PCI DSS compliant. No, PCI DSS is applicable on all the systems, all the applications, and all the servers or machines which are currently storing or processing the cardholder data. These are all included within the scope of PCI DSS, and if any of this machine is non-compliant to the PCI DSS requirement, it will make you a PCI DSS non-compliant. Then PCI DSS is a one-time activity. No, PCI DSS is not a one-time activity. Once you are PCI DSS compliant, you are only compliant or certified for the duration of 1 year. After 1 year, there will be again a PCI DSS surveillance audit, and in the surveillance audit, if you are non-compliant to any organizations, you will not be able to comply again. So at the end, most of the people think that PCI-DSS is too hard. No, PCI-DSS is not hard. It requires the proper guidelines and a good consultants who can guide you about its implementation and compliance. Then it will be easy and it will make your organization secure from the external threats or the external cyber threats. So that's all for today. And in these two videos, we have gained the basic understanding of the PCI DSS. If you have any question related to the 12 requirements of the PCI DSS, do let me know in the comments and I will reply to all. Till then, take care.